Fishing news is brought to you by Navionics, Okuma, and Yozori.
Well, the final weekend in March, and weather forecasters are calling for cloudy skies at the Jersey Shore, but temperatures up into the 60s and possibly even the 70s as well. I'm Jim Hutchinson with a New Jersey Delaware Bay edition of the Fisherman magazine, and 70s and very light southerlies would be great, especially for those looking for striped bass, white perch, and winter flounder along the shore. Hopefully we'll see sunny skies and balmy temperatures to start the week next week too. Monday, April 1st, we kick off our spring New Jersey tog season for the month of April. That big kickoff, that means New York, Delaware, and New Jersey boats together. We'll be fishing on those same tog grounds, hitting the wrecks, reefs, and snags. Now, our April edition is out. It's in newsstands, it's at tackle shops, and you subscribers should be getting a copy of it any day now. It's a great opportunity for you to get in on the crab jigging, that jigging for tog, with top-notch spinning outfits and jigs by guys like this. Dante Sorrente here from Magic Tales. Let's get another look at that massive 21-pound tog that he jigged up just off Barnegat Inlet back in January while he was working on this article. The week before, Dante and I were talking about this article, and he said, yeah, I'll work up the article, and bang, catches a 21-pound tog. So there you go. If you're into tog jigging, you can catch those fat fish on the jig as well. Now, in our local reports this week, going into the April edition, we find more striped bass action from areas here along the Raritan bayshore, which is not far from here, is where Nick Traina let me know earlier this week. He had 10 stripers to 27 inches over the weekend using bloodworms over at Cliffwood Beach. Boaters, too. Those early to splash, like Al Ristori and crew, finding some striped bass out here on the Raritan out front of Sandy Hook as well. Said they use bloodworms and shads as well, plastic shads, to catch some of those striped bass. Now, the Barnegat Bay folks that have launched their boats are still heading up into the Toms River in search of what feels like probably the best striper bite going in Jersey. Up Toms River right now, Cheryl Lindner was on them over the weekend. Sunny skies. Hope to see more of that. Tin boats, skiffs, and those kayaks. Definitely a good way of getting into some of the spring action wherever it might pop up. Don't forget those winter flounder too, just like Nick Honicheski had the middle of last week, like we talked about. Now, winter flounder overall in Central and North Jersey has been slow going. But again, by bank or by boat, your best bet is to chum heavily. Get those ground chum logs in your local tackle shop and the wire mesh baskets. If you're out on the boat, make sure you get your clamming license too. You take out some tongs and you can tong up a couple of dozen clams and kick up the bottom too while you're winter flounder fishing. Moving a little farther south, the folks at Bucktails Outfitters in Mays Landing, they said action was, quote, on fire this past Sunday on the Great Egg. Again, by boat, often by bank too. Just take a look at the shoreline there, the bulkhead along the river in Mays Landing. And look, if you get over there and there's too many people, you can't find a spot, just keep driving. Find yourself a nice spot along the Great Egg and get yourself into some of that striped bass action. It's the same thing for the Delaware too. If you're fishing the Jersey side of the Delaware, you might want to scope around a little bit, drive to some street ends, see if you can find yourself a nice quiet spot. But I'll tell you, it's been productive. Chris Orange checked in with us, found a productive afternoon outgoing tide on Tuesday, catching a few stripers. That action should only intensify as more of those ocean run stripers find their way up the Delaware. Which, of course, don't forget, there's that striper harvest prohibition on the Delaware that goes from the Commodore Barry Bridge up the Calhoun Street Bridge in Trenton. That entire stretch for the month of April and May is off limits to striper harvest. In fact, if you're fishing along that stretch as well, you're going to need to use circle hooks as well. That is the law. Now, we did have reports of some pretty big fish. No photos to substantiate this, but we heard of a 40-incher on the Delaware, according to Mike Farmer at Creek Road Bait and Tackle, and talking to Sea Isle Bait and Tackle over the weekend. They had a 38-incher reported over the weekend as well, and heard of some diving gannets and maybe more of those herring are starting to arrive. Of course, this is the time of year where more of those herring are arriving in our local estuaries. Expect to see a few more spawning class stripers to arrive in the coming days. Bunker as well. We talked about the bunker 2 weeks ago, where we had that bunker kill up along the ocean, the Shrewsbury and the Navesink. In fact, this is what happened when that blowout tide left a trail of dead bunker right at the confluence of the Navesink and the Shrewsbury. This photo sent along to thefisherman.com from Mark McAuliffe. But I would say the scene is set up. Taking a look along the bayshore midweek this week, quite a few gannets, and we're just about 2 to 3 weeks away from that SP minnow bite on those big staging stripers all along the bayshore here. Do not wait for the reports. Get out there early as soon as the weather allows. Make the reports. Don't just follow them. Now down in Delaware, Eric Burnley says small stripers are hitting soft plastics around Indian River Inlet. He said the last of the incoming, first of the outgoing has been best down there. Meanwhile, a few short bass and perch on bloodworms and cut bunker along Woodland, Augustine, and Bowers Beach along the Delaware Bayshore. Now, let's head out to the Poconos and check in with our friend George, the Pocono Outdoors guy.
Well, thanks, Jim. Hey, first this week I want to start off talking about trout. You know, this Saturday, March 30th, is the opener in the southeastern counties of Pennsylvania. And I also want to issue a correction. Opening day statewide is actually April 13th. So mark your calendars at Saturday, April 13th for the statewide opening of trout. Now, or else around the Keystone State, I'm getting all kinds of reports. The bass fishing is on fire. Matter of fact, the local guys are starting to get some really nice bass. And here's Mason Dempsey with a really nice bass he caught in a local lake here in Monroe County. Also, 8-year-old Alyssa Roberts with her first bass of the season. Well, there's so much going on. We're getting reports of shad being caught, stripers in the lower Delaware River. We're going to go look into those stories. But from now, from Pennsylvania, I'm George, your Pocono Outdoors guy.
Speaking of trout, don't forget efforts are underway right now in advance of the April 6th trout opener in the Garden State. In fact, the Shark River Surf Anglers, they have that annual kids event next Saturday, opening day, April 6th. But this Saturday, March 30th at 9:30 a.m., you can help the club stock some trout for that big kids event. Over 500 trout are being delivered to Spring Lake this week. Great event for the kids. That's this Saturday, 9:30 a.m. at Mercer Avenue. You've also got a free seminar on light tackle, fly and light tackle fishing. That's going to go on at Gabriel Tackle in Brick. That's going to start at 9 a.m. at the shop. I can tell you, get there early if you want a seat to sit in on that seminar. Now, if you don't feel like leaving your seat right now for a seminar, why don't you sit back and enjoy these worm tips from Bayshore surfcaster Matt Calabria, who's been getting it done with the bloods. So it's good advice. Fish your flag. And until next week, catch them up.
All right, here I'm making a video and showing you guys how I'm baiting my worm rig. So I start off with a 5.0 bait holder, 30-pound fluoro, somewhere around 2-foot leader. So I'm going to start off with a few sandworms here. I'm just barely hooking them just to get them onto the point before I start threading them together. So there's 3 sandworms. Take a little bit of clam tie. Start your initial ball. Just start kind of slowly wrapping them on the hook. Nice and loose. Okay, leave yourself a little bit of tag end. And then I'm taking about 3 more bloodworms and I'm just laying them on the top like this. Okay? Continue with the clam tie. And that's pretty much it. Alright? So this is what I've been using every night, and it's been just doing justice for me. And then what I've been doing to kick it up a notch is taking some of this stuff right here. This is Finessence, the clam scent. You just, when you're ready to fish, crack the top open, drop a couple droplets on that bad boy, and cast it out. And if you're fishing every day like me, keep this stuff together. This is, you can get 2-3 days out of this. I can show you a couple of rigs from last night. So this is great. Just put a couple worms on top of this and just keep going. Ready to go fishing. Alright? Fish your flag.